Hello and welcome to this week's episode of War Games Geek. This week's video is an update on my American Civil War Confederate Army that if you've been following you'll have seen previously. I'm obviously not going to go through all those again, but what I have done in the last couple of weeks is added some more, two more units to this army. One of them you'll have seen if you watched last week's video, which was the quick shade dip video, where I dipped this unit in the front here, which is the Van Dorn's units, and that's them there all ready for gaming on the table. So just scrolling across to the left, and the unit I've done this week is the unit here with the skirmishers in the front, which is the 22nd Alabama Infantry. Quite an interesting time they had in the Civil War, and I'll sort of go into a bit of detail about that shortly. So there they are. They're all done as well, using the same technique from last week, which was the base layer paints, and then going over them with the quick shade, and then once that had dried off, they were sprayed with matte varnish, and then bases were put on them with some flowers and bits and pieces like that. So a little bit of history about the 22nd Alabama Infantry is that they served in loads of theatres across the time period of the American Civil War, fighting at the Battle of Shiloh, Perryville, Murfreesboro, Chickamauga, Chattanooga, Atlanta, Franklin, Nashville, amongst others. So these guys really did see a lot of action during the American Civil War. Quite a high number of the senior officers were killed in this regiment. Colonel John C. Marrast, who died in service after having made a glorious record, according to Google. That's him there. So yeah, quite a time of it these guys had. So just going back to the actual figures here that I've painted, what I've done here is I've got the flags from battleflag.com, and what I'd wanted to try and do was to show that they were sort of flapping in the wind rather than just being sort of dead straight. So what I've done here is I've used PVA glue to glue the sort of two sides together. So the idea is you wrap it around the flagpole that the figure's holding, and then what I've done is I've just sort of bent them into shape whilst they were still wet, and I think they look like pretty decent actually. I'm quite pleased with the result of those. They definitely look like they're the wind is going through those flags. To keep them like that, what I've done is obviously they need to be sort of held in place until they're dry. So what I've done was I just sort of made the shape I wanted, and then sort of tucked them into the figure behind so that they sort of held it in place for me. So once the four figures are on the base, the one behind is the one that I use to sort of pin the flags where I want it. You can just kind of about see that on the plain blue flag there, the chap with the upright rifle. So yes, I've lent it on his bayonet just to keep the shape, and then just keep going back to it until it's kind of dry, just to make sure that it hasn't gone straight or there's no sort of folds in it, because that wouldn't look particularly good. So that's how I've put that unit together, and yeah, I'm really pleased with the result. What I've done here, again, just pointing out there, I mentioned this in the previous video, I've done their bedrolls in green on this unit, just so that when I've got them all in the boxes I can pick out the ones with at least one figure on each base. I've done with one of the bedrolls. These ones are brown, that's a fur brown colour from the Army Painter range. The ones in front of that, which is this new unit I've just finished last week, Van Dorn's unit, they're in a sort of beigey brown colour. And then the other unit on the right hand side here, I've done them with a sort of deep yellowy colour. Just try to keep them sort of naturally colours as best I possibly can, but that's the idea there. So as I say, at least one figure on each stand I've done with a bedroll in the colour for the unit that I want them to be with, and it seems to work quite well. The others, there's two units of Zouaves there, you can see one in the background there with the sort of red hats. Those guys don't have bedrolls, so they're just one unit with the white striped trousers representing the Louisiana Tigers. And I said before, if you watched the previous video, the other unit of Zouaves are just a sort of made up unit that I just thought I'm going to stick some colours on that I like the look of, and they've come out quite well. So back to the command stand then. This is the Alabama flag. So basically it's a plain blue flag with Alabama across it, and then there's a star yellow star that you can just about see there below, underneath the name of the state. And I'll just turn them guys around, so give you an idea of everything I've done on there. So what I've got is I've got the standard bearer or colour bearer. There's a general for that unit, and then behind, in the sort of row behind, I've just got two chaps walking along with their rifles on their shoulders. And then on the other stand, then I've got the drummer and the other colour standard, and again two guys behind that. One of those is just got his rifle on his shoulder, and the other one is pointing his rifle. It's, just make sure when you're doing these you get that right. There's nothing worse than having a unit behind this one. So if you're doing them in two rows, for example, and the guns are sticking into the back, so just don't stand very well together. So well, I'll just give you an example of there's sort of a unit in two rows. So the ones that are firing their guns I'll try to put in the front row, and then this is the Van Dorn unit again. I think I've only got a couple firing there, so when if I do decide to put them into more than one row, then I'll make sure the ones with the rifles are at the front. So that's just another look across the whole lot, going across to the artillery and the cavalry at the end there. And that's this week's video done. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like, comment, share, and as usual, thanks for watching.